Hey everybody, this is Solomon. This is a quick vignette for the podcast and for the YouTube page. So I asked the Facebook group what kind of things they'd like to hear about in short little vignettes like this, and one of the topics that was suggested was preparing for losses. Now, I think this is right now is the time to prepare for losses, which is why I've chosen this as the first vignette, because what you do now is what's going to have the greatest effect throughout the rest of the year, especially when you go into winter and the highest loss time. So I'm sitting here on my back porch. Probably hear the background noise. I decided to film outside because I filmed inside last time and I felt like I was boring and there was nothing going on, and I love outside a whole lot more than I love inside. Ask my children, I'm making them go outside all the time. So I'm sitting here and I have to my left is a swarm trap. There are actually 4 swarm traps sitting out here, and I in fact noticed today that the swarm trap over there has actually caught a swarm this afternoon. And this hive that's sitting next to me, upon which is sitting the cactus, is a swarm that I caught last fall. Most of the bees have come home for the night. It's getting late in the evening. So this represents the #1 most important factor, I think, in preparing for losses, and that's by catching swarms. So I've got somewhere in the range of, I have 28 total traps, and I think there are 26 or 25, 26 of them actually out in the world. 4 of them are here and the rest are everywhere else. So the #1 thing I think is for catching swarms, and you've heard me talk about catching swarms many times. I've had Jason Bruns on the podcast, and I want to have him on the podcast again about catching swarms. Catching swarms is really important for your beekeeping experience, in my view, #1, because they're free and they don't mess with your beekeeping experience by having money enter into the situation. Because when you put money in the situation by buying nucleus hives or packages especially, you get into this mindset of wanting to protect your investment. Now, there's nothing bad about that. It's natural. We live in a capitalist society. It just is the way it is. But we need to be aware of the fact that bringing money into things changes those situations. When you lend family money, it's going to change your family dynamic. Those of you that have done this know this, or those of you that have been in business with, you know, your brother or another family member, you understand how money can change a relationship. And that is the same thing with bees, with your experience in the hobby. #2, of course, is making your own splits and creating new bees from the bees that you already have. More hives, more colonies. More is always better in our case. It gives you a greater chance of finding what you're looking for so that you can have a more sustainable population over time and be less concerned about losing colonies. Because if I know how to create more colonies, then losing colonies is not a big concern for me. The same thing with swarming. I've got a bunch of swarm traps sitting around. If all my bees died this upcoming winter, I mean, it would be kind of a bummer, but it wouldn't be that big of a deal because I know that I can catch more where I got this one from. Because this one actually came from a spot way up on the mountain, way up over there, where the owner of the property has had bees in her house and in her barn for the last 35 plus years. And those colonies are still alive and they swarm every year, and I got one of their swarms, so that's good. And the third thing is not to be scared. Remember, beekeeping is supposed to be your hobby. right? Hopefully, you haven't bought yourself another job. You haven't bought yourself something else to worry about. I mean, this is why this is why my catchphrase is have fun keeping bees, because if you're not having fun, you shouldn't do it. Because if it's not fun, don't do it. I mean, there's so much else in our life that we have to worry about. Why would we want to add one more thing? It's not good for anybody. So that is the vignette on preparing for losses. Remember that losses are going to happen. Everything dies. It's only a matter of time. It's part of the process. It's part of natural selection. If we don't lose some hives sometimes, then we're left with weak hives all the time. And that is what treating gives us. Treating reduces or removes, almost highly reduces, very much reduces the natural selective pressure on bees to be able to deal with pests on their own. And so what you're left with when you treat bees year after year after year, you know, it'll be not too long, another couple of years, it'll be 30 years that Varroa have been in the United States, and there are still people treating. Because they're afraid of losing bees. And that's not doing anybody any good, much less the bees. That's why we're treatment-free beekeepers. Because we know the bees can handle it. And the only way that they're going to handle it is if they are made to handle it. If they are allowed to handle it. If they're forced to handle it. However you want to look at the situation. They have to handle it themselves, or they will never handle it themselves. So, that's the vignette for today. Hope to get this posted very soon. Hope you enjoyed the vignette. If you have any suggestions for other topics, I've actually got quite a list of topics when I asked for topics the first time. But if you'd like to send me a topic, send it to me on Facebook, or you can find my email address on my website at parkerbees.com. And I will try and record something like that to answer a question, to address a topic or a concern that you might have. And also, if you are interested in creating your own vignette, record an audio, 10 or no more than 15 minutes of audio on a topic or answering a question, send it to me, and I'll post it here on the podcast. Or if you record a video, I can post it on my YouTube page for you, so everybody can hear what you have to say. Thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for joining me, and have fun keeping bees.